We're just going to add a couple more transformations, which is going to be a phase shift and a reflection to what we already know, which is amplitude, midline, and range. All right, so a phase shift is, this is only if b is equal to 1. So there's a different rule if it's not. And then you can see it's the same standard form. All right, we're just going to do a phase shift, which is inside the parentheses plus or minus. But remember, it is opposite of what you think, meaning if it's minus, you think go left, but you're going to go right. And if it's positive, you think go right, but you're going to go left. So opposite of what you think in the x direction. And then we're also going to talk about reflection. Reflection is going to be a negative on the outside. So remember, reflection is opposite no matter where it is, inside or outside. So you would think because it's outside, it's y, but because it's opposite, it's over the x-axis. All right, so those are two things we're going to look at. So you start with the original. You always start with the original. So sine. Sine starts from, remember, the origin. And then you go up 1, 0, down to -1, to 0, to positive 1, and then back down to 0 in quadrantal angles. All right, so you do have to know how to graph the first 5. All right, then what do? From the last video, right, you know your amplitude is 3, it's the number in the beginning. It's the absolute value of 3. And then you know your midline is y equals that last number, which is -2. Same thing. Now we're just adding our reflection. So reflection is, does it have a negative? No, it does not. A phase shift is inside your parentheses. Is it moving left or right? Only if b is equal to 1. See how there's no number next to the x? So this one only works if b is equal to 1. So this is going to move right. And I'm going to change this question to pi over 2 just for ease. All right, so it's going to move right, pi over 2, because it's opposite. If it's negative, it's opposite, so it's right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do it. All right, so what do? I start with the graph. I do a phase shift, which is the opposite. So I'm going to go right, pi over 2, which is 90 degrees. Sometimes it's easier to think 90 degrees. So every point is going to move 90 degrees to the right. So I'm taking each point, moving it 2 boxes because that's 90 degrees. Every single point, move it right 2 boxes. All right, now do a dashed or graph the new point in a different color so you can see. You see how the whole graph has moved 90 degrees to the right. Now, once you've done that, that's the only new thing. You're going to do what you just did before. Plot the zeros on the new midline. So your midline is -2, so go to -2. Plot the zeros that are already existing. So there's the zeros, line them up. This is a listening check, color in, reflection. Okay, so there's no reflection, so we're not doing anything to that. So all we're doing is changing the amplitude. So where you see it's 1 above multiplied by 3, so now it'll be 3 above. And you're going to count 3 boxes. It's 1 below, so now we're going to count 3 below. And it's from your new midline, not your old one, your new one. All right, so 1 above, so we're going to count 3 above because it's, 3 times as big as before. Then go ahead and just in a dotted line or a dashed line, join up all your points. And again, I'm going to also keep going on this side. So same thing, 3 below, so that I can see where my graph goes. Okay, so I'm coloring that box because I'm saying that purple line is this one. So we stretched it by 3 in the y direction, we moved it to the right 2, and then we moved it down -2. All right, so let's take a look at our range. So we're going to do the shortcut. We're going to do both. So the bottom, which is minimum, is going to be -5. My top, which is the maximum, is going to be +1. All right, now let's use the shortcut to see if it works. So it's the midline plus or minus the amplitude. So -2 plus 3 is 1, so that works. And then -2 minus 3 is -5, so that works. Okay, so we can use this shortcut every time, or you can look at your graph. All right, let's take a look at one more example. Start with the original, do the phase shift, and then do the other 3 things. So start with my original. So it's cosine, which is like a wine glass. So it starts at 1, 0, -1, 0, 1, 0, -1, and so forth. So make sure it looks like a wine glass. Perfect. Very important that you know how to graph the original because, of course, you're going to reflect from the original. All right, so let's take a look at our question. So we have the amplitude of 2, absolute value of -2, I'm sorry, which is +2. This is a listening check, color in that 2. All right, then we have the midline at y equals -1. We do have a reflection because you can see the negative, and it's over the x-axis. And then the phase shift, that plus, instead of going right, you're going to go left because it's the opposite of what you think. Now we're going to go ahead and do those things here. So first we're going to do the phase shift. So we're going to move it left, pi over 2, which again is 90 degrees. So we're going to move every point 2 boxes to the left according to our graph. Okay, 2 boxes to the left is 90 degrees. So this is our new graph with just the phase shift. All right, then what we're going to do next is we're going to do the new midline. All right, so I'm going to bring it down to -1. So this is my new midline. And again, have some different colors. All right, my amplitude is 2, and I need to reflect it. So I'm going to do both at the same time. But first, I'm going to plot my zeros because my zeros are not going to change. So I'm just plotting my zeros from the green graph. Then what I'm going to do to the other points, I need to do two things. I need to reflect it and I need to multiply them by 2. So instead of being one box, they need to be 2 boxes and they need to be on the opposite side. So after I reflect it, count 2 boxes. Boom. So take my next point, see it's on the top, so it's going to reflect to the bottom, and then it's going to be 2 boxes for my new midline. So bottom, 2 boxes. 1, 2. My next point is on the bottom, so it's going to go to the top, 2 boxes for my new midline. 1, 2. Okay, so I'm doing 2 things. I'm reflecting it and stretching it by 2. That's my new graph. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that with a dashed line. And so this is after I've performed 4 transformations to it. So my purple line is my question. That's why I'm shading that graph. All right, finally, let's talk about the range. Remember, the range is your midline plus or minus your amplitude. So -1 plus 2, -1 minus 2. And I can double check it on the graph. My minimum is -3, so that's right. My maximum is +1, according to the purple graph. And that's it. Let's practice.